All right, so we'll start the Director's Dialogue for August 3, 2022. We've got a lot of things to cover. I'm sure we'll have lots of discussion, but as we start each time, and I didn't bring my pointer, I just realized that, but in independent living, there are 318 homes that are occupied. This was as of, well, that says 7/1, but it's really last week, 7/22, or 7/29. That means we're unfavorable to budget, which is 320 by 2. We have 5 people that have in the 20% category, and we have 6 people. Oh, thank you. We have 6 people somewhere in the reservation process, but have not 20%ed yet. That's 11. And that leaves us 10 homes that are unspoken for. So we have 340 altogether, and so it gives us 94% occupancy and 96% occupied and reserve. In assisted living, as of Friday, we were 38. Our budget calls for us to be 38, so we have no variance between actual and budget. Now, there are 2 people that are in a reservation process for assisted living. And that we have 42 of them altogether, and so we're 95% occupied and 98% sold. In memory care, we have 20 homes there, and all 20 are currently occupied, or at least they were on Friday. And so we are 100% there. And then in healthcare, we had on Friday 56 that were occupied. Our expectation was 54, so we're 2 favorable. There are nobody in a reservation process that I'm aware of, and that means we have 3 that are available for a total of 60. So we're 95 and 95. In independent living, we have a total of 3 move-ins in July. We'll have 1 in August, and then we're showing 6 for September. So that'll be good. Any questions about occupancy? Yes, ma'am.
I'm in independent living. If for some reason I have to be in healthcare for a period of time, am I counted twice?
You would be counted twice. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't figure that out. Thank you.
Once you were deemed to be permanent there and you vacated your independent, then you'd be counted once. COVID, I think you're still getting slides each day. Okay. So today there are 3 cases. There's in independent living, there's 0 in assisted living, there's 0 in memory care, there's 0 in health care. We have 2 team members who were positive, so a total of 5. Okay, we're going to skip this topic. What I've done in the next few slides is I've taken what I've heard from people, questions that I've heard from people, and just written them down, and I put my answer underneath the question or the comment. And hopefully that'll save people from having to repeat things that have already been said a few times. And at the end of when we finish talking about carpet, then we'll have some discussion time you can say whatever's on your mind about carpet. So one question that I've heard a couple of times is specifically, who was part of the selection process? And specifically, there was a committee for independent living that was comprised of 6 independent living residents. There was a guy named Dan Etzel, who was the former COO of Pinnacle. He's retired now. There were 6 Cedarfield senior leaders. Some of those folks are still here and some are not. There were 2 interior designers. There was one that was more hands-on, and there was one that was more project management. And the name of the firm that was used for that is Cornerstone. Cornerstone. And the group that is installing the carpet is called DMA Flooring. I think that answers the question about specifically who was involved in the selection of the carpet. If you ask me the names of the independent living residents, I will not provide them to you. I have them, but nobody moves to a retirement community to have a target on their back. And I don't think it'd be very good for us to get into people's passion about the carpet. In assisted living, there was a different process, but very similar. There were 4 assisted living residents who were involved. 2 of them are no longer with us, and 2 of them are. Dan Etzel, who is the former COO of Pinnacle. There were 5 Cedarfield senior leaders. There were different ones. Some were the same, some were different in the selection process in assisted living. There was 1 interior designer. That firm is a different firm. It's called DSI. I think it's Design Source Incorporated, maybe. But DSI. And they're different because they were part of the construction project. So there were 2 different designers there. And the installer was not DMA Flooring, but it was a company, I don't even know who it is, but it's somebody, one of the Horgan subs is the carpet installer. And they're doing all the project. They were contracted to do all the carpet and all the construction project. I hate the new carpet. I love the new carpet. I've had many, I think, very genuine expressions of dislike of the new carpet. And I promise you, I've had just as many very genuine expressions of approval. I've gotten an email said, kudos on the new carpet. I've been stopped and all. So there's, as with many things, sort of a mixed bag. And I was talking to a person in my office, I think it was on Monday, and I was just saying how sometimes when you do things, a third of the people love it, and a third of the people hate it, and a third of the people say, well, do we do something different? I didn't notice. And she said, I'm actually one of those people. Do we do new carpet? I said, yes, we did. So it really is kind of a balance, but I've heard both. I've had people ask me, can we stop this installation? Because I hate the carpet so much, I want you to stop. And the answer is no. We really can't just stop the installation and leave it halfway. We have an agreement with the installer. We've signed the agreement, 50% deposits. He already bought the carpet. You know, he buys it and then we pay him. It's already bought. We can't just stop. I don't like the layout. I don't like how it's centered in the doors. Can we change that? And the answer is that it's complicated. And the issue, as I understand it, is dye lots. So when they run carpet these days, there are some carpets I guess you can buy at Lowe's and some carpet places that they just run all the time. But for commercial applications now, they manufacture in a just-in-time sort of format. You raise an order, everything is so technology-driven and computer-wise, they print you a custom run. And so what happened with our patterned inset for both the blue and the blue-gray floors is that patterned inset was a custom run. And they did enough of that run to do the job. And according to DMA, what he considers that when he orders the square footage, he orders X percentage for waste, and then he orders a little bit for errors and things he has to go back and fix. But it's a pattern, it's a unique pattern. And the blue, I don't know is a custom run, but they don't run it, they run a run with a certain, and they call it a dye lot. And then if they print it again, they print another one, and it creates this thing called a dye lot issue, which is if you take one from one run, and you take another from another run, even though they're both blue, and you butt them right up against each other, there's a high probability that there'll be a significant difference in the dye lot. And so it is not ideal to butt them up against each other. So the answer is not no, and the answer is not yes. The answer is, it looks like no, but I'm still talking about it with them. That's about as honest an answer as I can give you. It's just not as simple as fix it. There are some installation issues people have pointed out. correctly. There are some frayed seams. Most of what I've seen is glue that's been sloppily applied. And I've seen some uneven seams that I don't find to be acceptable. And there's at least one area where there are frayed seams that are not acceptable. So in talking with the guy from DMI, his name is Richard Durkee, and when I talked to Richard and I talked to the designer people too, the process really is to finish the installation and then walk the carpet, just like you would with a construction project. You punch the project, or in this case the carpet, and then get a list of things that need to be corrected before you release your final payment to the installer. It's my belief that glue should clean up pretty well with the solvent. And so there are areas where they were just glue and they got it on the bottom of somebody's foot and they walked on it. But the installer, as I said before, purchased enough material to come back and fix any seams. All that will still be from the same dye lot, so it shouldn't be an obvious thing where some of the fray. And there's some where the seam sort of runs in an uneven way, and it's obvious to me. I don't like it, and so we need to see about how getting that fixed. So that's what I know about the installation. I feel like whenever I've done carpet installation, not I've done it, but whenever I've been a part of a project and when there's carpet to be installed, there's always something that the guys on the ground do that's wrong. And so the people have to come back and sort of correct it. I will say that the first crew that came out on day one, we were unhappy with them. And I called Richard and I made it very clear to him that this was not meeting our expectations. That install supervisor, or whatever his title is, never came back. And it's been better since then. But the first part on the third floor where they did it, where it overlooks the park view entrance, in my opinion, is the part that needs the most work. And I think we had a bad supervisor there, but it got fixed. Why did the installer jump to the fourth floor? I've heard people ask that question. And the answer is he did not receive all of his shipment of the blue carpet from the manufacturer. And so he's in contact with them and they have to ship the remainder of it to him. I believe it's en route, or going to be en route soon. I don't think it'll pose a major delay, but he didn't want to waste time, of course, so he has the other carpet, so he started installing the other carpet. So that's what he did. I'm sure that's not all the thoughts or comments, and Ms. Chaplin is here chewing at the bit to get a hold of me. So we'll start some discussion about the carpet and the carpet. Any questions that you have that I can answer?
Two questions. One, what constitutes a senior leader?
A department director.
Okay.
Or an executive director, anyone who's not sort of a supervisory level.
Okay. And secondly, was the carpet originally planned for it not go door to door?
The carpet was planned originally just as it was installed.
Okay. When they get ready to do the first and second floor, can they do it door to door and then eventually get those back to door too? Because it looks more professional.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was trying to explain a minute ago that fixing the third and fourth, or removing that inset, is not as simple as it sounds. So it's not as simple as saying, let's go back and fix it. We can fix it.
They changed their process since they did the first and second floor?
And she's asking, did they change their process since they did the first and second floor? And I think clearly there was a different layout between the first and second, the third and fourth. I don't think it was a process, I think it was a layout decision. Yes, ma'am.
Paul, when residents were called in to advise about what was being selected in various places, do you know whether they were called in at the beginning or the end of the process? There's a difference between giving thoughts and endorsing. Do you have any idea what went on there?
I don't know the answer to the question, and I'll repeat it so that everyone at home can hear too. Mrs. Rucker was just asking me of the process for including residents, the 6 that I just named, were they brought in early in the process, or were they brought in at the end of the process? She's asking me if I know the answer to that question, and I don't know the answer to that question. I can tell you I can tell you a couple things. It's always been my habit to include residents in decisions like that. I typically create a small, relatively small ad hoc group of people. I don't do a sign up. I pick the people. Partly because I want people to be some new, some been here a while, some men, some women, some cottage, some apartment. And if you have a sign up sheet, you're going to get the highest degree of acidic personality on your committee. And people that can't play well with others are of no use to us if we're doing something nice. So I pick them. That's a disclosure. I've had good luck with that. I've never gotten above the 30-30-30, no matter what I've done. 30 hate it, 30 love it, 30 don't care. It's just been something I've observed over the last 30 years of doing this. I did a big project once at Glen Eyre, a community I used to work in. It was, at that time, it was a $1.2 million renovation. It would have been like doing all of these common spaces and all the hallways in independent living. For us, it probably would have been, today's time, $2+ million job. And I had a group of people who had a lot of input. And I, in my grand wisdom, put up a color board. Because I was like, oh, we'll be good communicators. We'll put up a color board. Oh my God, a colored board is the worst idea ever. Because they see a piece of, all the sample colors are the same size. Well, there was a little bit of brown that was going to be used as an accent. But the brown sample was as big as all the other samples. You're turning the place brown! Blah, blah, blah. There were petitions flying around. And I had the 10 people on the ad hoc committee denied being on the ad hoc committee. I wasn't on that committee. Well, I see your name on the invitation. Oh, they just forced that down my throat. I didn't have any real choices. I said, oh, I know how Jesus must have felt. Y'all have abandoned me 3 times before the rooster crowed. So I think the reason to do it is because I genuinely think you get better results when you incorporate it. But you're never going to have the kind of political cover that you'd like to have from that. Because the real question is, you didn't ask me. You asked 10 people, you didn't ask me. And I can't ask 400 people. I just can't. So that's my process. And to the best of my knowledge, that's a process that Michael followed. I don't know. I wasn't here.
Paul, the part of the period that I was involved in, I think Mrs. Rucker and a few other people were too, the designers, and this was for the lobby and the chapel, and they already had pre-chosen certain things, and we were just supposed to kind of pick out those pre-chosen things. That was just my experience. But my question to you is, when it's time to do this room and some of the other areas, are you going to do the process that you just explained and choose people?
Yeah, whenever I've been involved in a project in the past, that's my preferred way of doing it. But
so nothing's been prearranged for this room yet?
Nothing has been prearranged for this room. The status of this room is that the architect has given a schematic design to us that says, here's the kinds of things that you can do in this room, paint, windows, window treatments, and all that's been priced, and it's given me a price. But it's not been any selection types of things have happened up to this point. The lobby is done. All that, the carpet is going to extend all the way down to the marketing door. And so the time to do anything with the lobby has passed. All that's done, the furniture's been ordered, it's sitting in a warehouse, all that's done. And so it's now an installation issue.
Well, and I just wanted to point out that we were brought in kind of after things were pre-chosen.
Understand.
Okay.
Ms. Rose has a question.
One person who was on the 3rd or 4th floor said that it sounds like it was pretty late because there were four selections that they were presented with, and they were all in the same color family. So there really was no, this person felt no selection or not much of a chance to have any input. My question that maybe you didn't is, was the new layout for the third and fourth floor at the doors even described to anybody? You may not know.
I do know. I asked that question, and the layout was never discussed with that group.
Okay. And then my looking forward, I have a different idea to consider than the ad hoc groups, and that is to go through the residence council area reps and, somehow use that process, whether it's meetings or whatever. And so it's just something to think about.
Okay. I usually try to pick people for whatever I'm doing based on their experience and their strengths. So when I did interiors, we just know the residents. We know people have really lovely homes and have what feels like exceptional taste, and kind of talk to those people. Some people may have had some interior design experience. So we try to get, and again, it's back to some old and some new and some men and some women, and so I feel like it's a little bit of thought to get into who's working with us. But I understand your suggestion, Ms. Rose.
Hello, Paul.
Hi, Ms. Fiske.
Thank you. Since I've lived here 12 years, I remember the days of elegance in this community, in this building, and in every aspect of living here. I regret to say that I feel like I'm living in a second-class hotel. And I say that because I look at the entrance to the Parkview entrance on the very first floor. It's cheap, inexpensive furniture and carpeting there. I live on the third floor A wing. I get off the elevator and I'm greeted by this dark blue cheap carpet looking at me every single time I get off the elevator. It's doomy, gloomy, and definitely not inspiring. My comment is Pinnacle Living and Cedarfield interior designers are changing this facility, and I'm dissatisfied with this thrust toward inexpensive looking accommodations.
Understand. Other questions? Yes.
We have
Oh,
had-
wait just a minute for the microphone. Oh, Ms. Chaplin.
We have had interior decorators here whose philosophy is buy one, get one free. And they'll sit there, seriously, and they'll put them right together instead of in different areas. Was there any consideration of the colors that they've chosen for the carpets and the fact that you've got the blue carpet and green furniture?
I'm not aware of furnishings that were planned for those spaces.
I'm going to move along over to assisted living,
Okay.
where they have the new carpet installed.
Yes.
It's almost impossible to push someone in a wheelchair through there. It is it's much more plush, and it's a real struggle. And then I watched them moving the food carts or carts with other things on them, and they can't push them straight because there's so much cushioning in that carpet. It's very difficult.
Okay. Thank you for that. Other questions or comments about the carpet in any area? Any questions, comments about carpet? Yes, ma'am. If you'll wait just one moment, he's going to come with the microphone. And thank you, Mike, for doing that for us. I appreciate it.
I just wanted to ask you about the library. What is the situation with the library at this point?
Okay. What is the situation with the library at this point? So I'll answer that question in another slide, if that's okay. I had planned to talk about it. In the back, Ms. Williams has a question.
I'm not aware that any new carpet is planned anytime soon for floors 1 and 2, is that correct?
I'm not aware of any carpet that's planned for floors 1 and 2 in the near future. I think they need to be done, but I don't know that there's a plan for them.
Someone mentioned the furniture and the pictures. Seems to me that maybe, I don't know who picked the interior decorators for at least the 3rd and 4th floor, but there was no big picture of looking at the furniture or the walls. Someone already mentioned that, and I guess going forward, there are two things. Number one, and I think that there were people who had sight issues and cognitive issues, and there are actually medical studies, and they were given to the decorators, but it sounds like they weren't paid attention to, at least according to some people who have such issues. But the bigger issue to me is I don't think it's in the budget to do anything with the furniture that's all in the Green family, at least on the 4th floor.
It's my understanding that there was a project, and that project was to replace carpet. That doesn't mean it's going to stay there forever. I'm just telling you there was a project to replace carpet.
Replace carpet, and you are an interior designer or just common sense, you look at the furniture and walls.
Yes. I think what Mrs. Rose is saying, if you have any common sense, if you're going to do carpet, you'd also do furniture. Is that right, Ms. Rose? Okay. I could accept that. Yes, Ms. Williams has a question.
Just a comment, I hope we will not be employing these same design firms again.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Construction. So the rehab household is underway. As you know, it's the 4th floor of healthcare. The duration of that project is I've been reporting through October, and I'm pleased to say that they're ahead of their schedule, and they're going to finish it up in September and turn it over to us. And because of that, the 10 people that have moved out of assisted living and up to the 4th floor household are moving back more quickly than we had planned. So they're going to move back on August 15th, when originally we thought it would be sometime in September. And so we're pleased about that. And now we're gearing up for the next phase of the project, because rehab will be done probably in September. So on September the 12th, now 11 people who are in a different part of assisted living are going to move to that 4th floor household, which is being used as sort of a swing space for us as we phase through the construction. And they're going to move to the 4th floor household so we can have access to their rooms. On September 26th, what's now Poppy Place is going to move into the new rehab space, and that'll be their new home permanently. And at that time, when both those moves occur, the third and the one half of the 3rd floor and one half of the 4th floor above it will be vacant, and we can begin the construction of the 3rd and 4th floors. Hold on. Let me unplug that. See if I can get it. Slide up. Okay. Hey, something happened. So just to demonstrate what I just said, because it's enormously complicated, these 10 people back in the spring moved to the 4th floor household. And this was the rehab, and these people, this and this, were under construction in this phase. And the reason these people were moved is because they had to get into their homes, cut out the ceiling, and get up into the piping to change the plumbing to meet the new floor plan for this. Now they're going to be moving back into their homes. These folks on the top of the 4th floor household in green, which is called Poppy Place, are going to move into the new rehab, and that's their new home. The people here are going to move into the 4th floor household. And when that happens, this green and this green that sit on top of each other will all be vacant. They'll do a lot of deconstruction here, and they only need this to access the drainage and the plumbing. So all that will happen through the fall and into the early winter. And that's this phase of construction that we're in right now. Okay? Does that help?
Yes.
Someone showed that to me and I thought, God, that's so helpful. I couldn't hardly get it before.
Question?
Yes, sir.
A resident in assisted living has told me, and I don't know if it's accurate or not, but then when after his space is redone in this next group and he moves back, there will be no kitchen sink, the microwave will be smaller, and the refrigerator will be smaller. So the only sink that people in assisted living will have will be in the bathroom. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. That's a mixture of facts that all taken in total are incorrect. So the people that are living on the 3rd floor of assisted living that we just highlighted, nothing's going to change about their apartment other than we're going to cut a hole in the ceiling, we're going to access drainage pipes, move toilet, the P-traps for the toilets and all that stuff, and we're going to close the ceiling up, and that's it. That's all we're doing. What that person has in their mind is when we move to the 4th floor household, because they've had microwaves and refrigerators and they're used to that, we're providing it for them. We bought microwaves and we bought refrigerators. They're smaller, and so they'll have those amenities while they're temporarily living somewhere else, and they'll come back to what they've always had. Yes, ma'am.
Just because we're on the subject of construction, there was some talk about doing something about the clinic, and that it was going to be moved or expanded and up to the club room area and the guest rooms, which are still closed, correct?
Today they are, yes.
Okay. So is there any progress on the clinic?
Yep, so she's asking about the clinic and the plans that were detailed to you a while ago. And so the clinic is a part of the overall master plan. And let's take a step back and just talk about the whole thing, which I think might help you understand the question. When the whole project was going, we were going to borrow enough money through the bond issue to do the healthcare and do a master plan renovation of all the common areas here. Then there were some cost overruns and some things that happened here, and I think, I don't know this for sure, but I think it's true, that as Shockey and Sons underperformed and we got rid of them, as we rebid the job, construction costs had escalated with the new contractor. So there were some things that caused Pinnacle to say, hold on, we need to make sure that we can complete this with the money that we have. So all this went on hold, and it was rather sudden. So sudden that the furniture for this lobby had already been ordered. And that's how sudden the stop was. And so there were very concrete plans, and we were moving towards redoing the clinic. And it stopped, like everything else stopped. Now all these things are moving forward, but they're moving forward through the annual capital expenditure plan for Cedarfield and not through the bond issue. So the clinic, the plan was to empty the clinic, but instead of you not having access to a clinic at all, move it up to the club room to utilize the guest rooms as patient rooms, and that was the temporary solution. So they closed the guest rooms and all that in preparation. It just suddenly stopped. And it's going to be on hold for a while. So I'm left with figuring out what are the priorities of all those things that were planned. Obviously, the lobby's furniture has already been ordered, so we need to move forward with that. The library things. I think this room is a priority. So Lacey and I have met with Ann and Florence, and we've talked about maybe we can start doing the clinic and maybe do it in little pieces and not have to vacate the whole thing. We had an initial conversation about that. We have not yet revisited that subject, but I did put it on my to-do list last week to begin to bring that subject back again. I don't think we're going to be in a position to empty it, move it, but I think we may be able to do it in 3 different pieces and get the same result and still operate the clinic. So that's what we're going to try to do. The guest rooms are coming back online soon. Yeah. Somewhere in all that, the furniture was misplaced, so we had to get us a little bit more furniture, but I don't think it's far from opening. Florence, do you have any sense of?
We're hoping they'll open within a month.
Within a month is the hope. Okay. Other projects. They're active shooter training. And I didn't say drill, I said training. So we've identified a trainer. We're determining what that person's scope is going to be and what kind of cost will be incurred with that. So that's in the process, and I don't imagine it'll be too much longer before we'll do some training. I've been using the word drill, and someone helped me understand we don't want to do a drill. We don't want to have somebody walking around like they're a shooter. No, I don't want to do that. But what we do want to do is educate people about how you respond in the case we have an active shooter and how you're communicating, all those kinds of things. And we particularly want to train in the health areas and some of the staff that are in confined areas that are close together. So that's shaping up. I would love to skip this slide, but I can't. The status is that we're still working on, the people have the plan, they're designing all the runs and all that stuff. We've been informed that there's a 40 to 45 week lead time for a generator. Just let that sink in a minute. It's about 9 months to get a generator. If you order one today, it won't show up until 9 months from now. So that's a supply chain thing, and no one can really fix that. But what we can do is make determining the load calculation early in the design process so that we can go ahead and order the right generator, and while the rest of the design work is being done, that is how the runs will work and the wiring diagrams and all that stuff, the generator can be in process. But this little bit of news was difficult for me to hear because it doesn't seem like it, but we've been working really hard to try to speed the generator process up. And so that was a blow to learn that, but that's what it is, and so we'll just do what we can with what we have. Pavement sealing.
Paul, you go with the slides.
I'm sorry? Oh, there's no slides. I'm sorry. There we go. Well, no wonder you weren't reacting as much. I thought maybe nobody saw that. We're informed that there's a 40 to 45 week delay or lead time for generators. That's what I was speaking about. It's a long time. Pavement sealing, recommended to be done 1 year after paving. The agreement has been signed. We're determining what the start rate or the start date is going to be in the schedule. Guy told us preliminary it'd be about 3 weeks project from start to end. And Lacey's meeting with them next Tuesday to go over finalizing the schedule, where they're going to start, what the process will be. We'll have to do all the roads. We'll have to do all the parking lots. And so it's going to be a lot of coordination that we'll need to undertake. Very similar if you were here during the paving project, all that type of coordination. And the same person is coming to do the work. And I heard good things about them. That doesn't mean that they'll perform better this time, but they certainly have a track record with us that's positive. So the next step is to finalize it and communicate it to you. Other things, we're working on pricing the lobby and the restrooms. Lacey has that. We're getting all the trades, getting a price from all of them, and see if we can put together a project with him as the GC for it. There's no timeline yet, but we're very active in getting those prices. In fact, I saw electricians there today looking at the lighting. Other things, the fellowship hall, it's in the plan, as I just said. There's been a schematic design done, but there's no solid timelines for it just yet. And the secret garden is getting a little more active. We're talking about some of the things that we need to do if we're going to do a true fundraising kind of thing. And then there's some things that we ought to do from an infrastructure perspective. The non-sexy things, we ought to set the foundation for it. But there's no timeline for it just yet. I was asked to communicate to you about after-hours transportation. If you find yourself in the emergency room and it's in the middle of the night and you have no family or friends that can help you, you can call the nursing supervisor, and the number is in the phone directory, and we have an agreement with a transport company. And that transport company will come, and that person, I said she, but it could be a he, that nursing supervisor will arrange that transportation for you. We will pay the transport company, and then we'll pass that charge along to you through your monthly bill. COVID testing on weekends, and somebody wanted me to mention this as well. If you can't wait, if it's a weekend and you suddenly think, oh gosh, I should get tested for COVID, the clinic is obviously not open. If you can't wait until Monday, then you'd be advised to go to CVS or somewhere where you can get a test. It's very simple to do and very accessible at this point.
I got a question on that. What has been the policy before? If you want COVID testing on the weekend? If you needed COVID testing on the weekend?
Yeah.
What has been the policy up till now?
This. We don't have the clinic is not open, and people are going to the weekends to a CVS to do it. To my knowledge, we've never provided COVID testing on weekends. I think this is more a reminder because people have been asking about it again. The tunnel, the big, there's a question here.
This was back one slide, well, now back 2 slides. Back one more. Yes. A friend said they called the number that's in the directory for this ER, called it 4 times before they got an answer, and when they got an answer, the nurse who answered didn't know anything about it.
Okay. Do you know how long ago that was?
A week or 2.
A week or 2 ago? Okay.
Very recently.
Okay. That's good to know. Thank you. So it sounds like a little more training needs to be done on that end. A new design is being developed for the drainage out here. It's going to involve some more drainage that needs to be done, and so that process is being designed, and I think getting a price now. Hiring, we always want to talk about that. In the healthcare, we continue to focus on CNAs and nurses. Things seem to have shifted with us lately. We're getting more applicants. We're filling positions more readily, which has been good. In the marketing department, we have filled the sales counselor position that we were looking for so long. That person's name is Emily Adler, and she'll start with us on August the 16th. We have filled the marketing coordinator position. That was filled yesterday. And so a young lady whose name is Andrea. Andrea will be the marketing coordinator. And as you all know through memo, on Monday, the marketing director position is open. In the maintenance area, we have hired 3 maintenance technicians in the last few months, which has been really good. We still have the 1 HVAC position open. And we've talked about this enough. I think you know that Darlene Green is now the maintenance coordinator. In dining, most of the positions have been filled. And we opened up Prima as well on Monday. So it looks like all of our dining, our guests are back, our Prima's open, and I can't think of anything that we were doing prior to COVID that we're not doing now. So we're really back up to speed there. There's a lot of words here, too many, but it's just I thought it was an interesting little blurb that I read, so I copied it. It was an economist saying about the June job growth and then how it exceeded expectations and sort of against the rule that we're heading toward a recession. But the main thing I wanted to point out was that the employment rate held at 3.6%. It was close to what we considered full employment. It's a half-century low mark, and employers continue to offer higher wages to attract talent. Many are unmoved. The gap between job openings and available workers remains at 2 jobs for every unemployed worker. For every job opening, there are 2 job openings for every 1 unemployed person. So hiring is still going to be and continue to be a challenge for us in the trades and in healthcare, I think particularly. And that's why we can't get an HVAC person. Because I don't think we want to know what James River HVAC is paying their people. Because I don't think we can pay them that. The Continuing Care 101 series got rescheduled because our friend Ann Hopper, who was going to be a main part of that, decided on the fly that she's going to take a trip to Ireland to apparently her ancestral home. And so I said, you can't go. You have to do this thing. She's going to go do that. So we'll reschedule that. Questions that I received: can you detail the facts regarding the sale of the Pinnacle Northern Virginia property? What was the sales price? And I cannot share, I don't know the sales price, number one. And number two, it's not public yet. It will be public sometime in the fall. There's some sort of a report that has to be done, but for the time being, it's not public knowledge. Second question was, how does that sale benefit Cedarfield? And it benefits Pinnacle, which benefits Cedarfield, because it obviously adds a lot of cash to our position and allows the funding of other strategic initiatives that Pinnacle has in mind. What all they are, I'm not sure, but essentially a better cash position to fund other strategic initiatives. If it helps Pinnacle, it helps all of us. So that's the answer that I would give you. Has the tunnel contractor reimbursed Cedarfield, as you indicated, is required per contract? I don't recall saying that. What I said was that as we exited with Shockey and Sons, because of some defect in workmanship, we're going through a liquidated damages process with them. And so that's where we are with them. I'm not involved in that process, but that's the way that we're going to be reimbursed for warranty work that needs to be done. Liquidated damage process. How often will housekeeping be required on the vacuum? How often will housekeeping be required to vacuum the new flooring? Dark colors need more attention. They are to vacuum every day, and so they're going to need to be able to continue to do that on a daily basis. Other questions? I sort of rushed through the end there. Other questions that you might have on any topic?
More a comment than a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I have emailed maintenance several times about things, or left a voicemail about things in my apartment that need some attention, and I get no response back. And I wondered if there's some way that if you send an email, that just something, if they shoot something back to say, we got your email, we're working on it, or a call back when you leave a message.
Okay. What email address do you use? Whatever's in Touchdown?
I think it was, I emailed what was still Gloria. What was still Gloria, and I think I had said that I thought all the new positions need to have Darlene on there now.
Okay. So if you're doing it to D. Green at Pinnacle Living, okay, we need to look into that. Thank you. Mr. Myers?
Relative to emergency telephone numbers and emergency protocol. A while ago, there was a flood in the D wing. It took approximately 1¼ hours for a maintenance person to show up. This person showed up with pliers and a 5-gallon bucket. Over this last weekend, the lawn sprinkler to the north and east of the wellness building was on all day long. Maintenance was called. That number is for work orders and is simply, on the weekends, a recorded number. The concierge was called, and the concierge indicated maintenance would be called. Apparently, maintenance did not receive the information, or maintenance could not fix it, or there is no protocol as to what or how the water in the sprinkler should be shut off. The sprinkler was on all day long. The quote emergency number for maintenance is basically the normal work order telephone number and is basically a recorded call on the weekend. Should we have a person or persons designated during normal, not during normal working hours or days, where there is a number where a person with an emergency can call, such as call you, call somebody, and not basically trying to work with either a nurse, a nurse's aide, or the concierge who really doesn't know the system. So what we need is a person or persons to be responsible with an emergency number that can be contacted 24/7. Thank you.
Yep. So I think you're right about that, Larry. I think that the system needs to be looked at and perhaps rearranged. I can tell you what I know about that. I got your note about it earlier this week, and I did some investigation of it. And what was supposed to happen, and I don't think this is the best system, so we may need to change it, but what was the system is that number, if it's not answered, is supposed to roll over to the security. And that was not happening. And I feel like that's such a tenuous setting that I don't know that we should trust that kind of setting. If it inadvertently gets turned off, we don't routinely just call the number to see. So I think you're right that the whole system of on-call and weekends needs some review. Yes?
Just real quickly about the sprinkler system, I had noticed it in the middle of the day, and when I noticed it still when I was headed out to dinner, I did mention it to the receptionist, and she contacted security, and when I came out of dinner, it was off.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Chapman, wait just 1 second. 1 second.
There is no phone number listed in the directory for Darlene Green.
We're taking a note of that.
What is the status of securing funds for the electric charging stations?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
What is the status of securing funds for the electric charging stations for electric vehicles?
Yeah. There's no status just yet. It's something that's on the radar, but no concrete actions have been taken yet. But the clear fact is we have to have the infrastructure to be able to satisfy people who are moving here or currently live here who want to buy an electric car. But I don't have a concrete step to report to you. Are there other questions on any topic at all? Any questions? Okay, well, I thank you all for coming. I hope this is helpful to you, and I will see you next month.
Do that one, boss.
Yeah.